Hi, welcome to our virtual info session for the Brown School for our Master of Social Work and Master of Public Health programs. Today our topic is student research opportunities. And we are going to talk with a panel of current students that are involved in research in various ways right now. The purpose of this info session is to talk about the various pathways that our students take to become engaged in the cutting edge research that our faculty and research centers are engaged in. And to highlight specifically the Master's Research Fellowship application process. We've had a lot of questions about that. We'll get to that in a little bit. And then to hear from our current students on their specific experiences, which are unique. Everyone comes to a research experience in a different way. So my name is Laura Peer. I'm an admissions and recruitment specialist, and I'll have our students. We have John Eads and Jose Aguimateng and Melissa Franco, and they will introduce themselves. If you could name where you're from, your program, your year of study, concentration and specialization, and what research center you're involved in, and talk a little bit about how you came to that position. John, you want to start?
Sure. So my name is John Eads. I'm first year MSW Advanced Standing. My concentration is social and economic development, and I don't have a specialization. I work at the Institute for Advancing Justice Research and Innovation. I'm from Kentucky. I work at the Institute for Advancing Justice Research and Innovation, and I came to that position by coming to Admitted Students Weekend and speaking with the different research centers, and I found one that really aligned with my interests. My past experience involves the criminal justice population, both in Peace Corps and in undergraduate, with research and internships there. So I approached the table and I got to talking with the people there, and I asked if there might be a possibility for a research assistantship, and they said to send in my stuff, and I did. And that sort of was my pathway into this institute.
Great. Thanks, Jose.
Hi, I'm Jose. I came here from Washington, D.C., and I am a first-year MSW student advanced standing as well. I'm concentrating in social and economic development, and I'm specializing in policy and social entrepreneurship. Currently, I work as a graduate research assistant in the Institute for Advancing Justice Research and Innovation. And I came to this position in the summer. I had applied to an MRF, but I did not get one. But then I looked into what research institutes are at the Brown School, and I saw that the Institute for Advancing Justice Research and Innovation paralleled with what my interests were. So I reached out to them. I asked if they had any positions open, and then they said yes, and for me to send in my information, and then I got the job.
I'm Melissa Franco. I came from Pasadena, California, and I'm a first-year MPH student specializing in epidemiology and biostatistics. The way that I got my research position was through the part-time job fair that is hosted during orientation. And so during that time, there was various research centers that were looking for research assistants at that time, and that's how I came across my position. And so currently I'm a research assistant at the Prevention Research Center here at WashU.
Great, thank you. So I encourage you, as questions arise, you can post them to the sidebar area on YouTube, on this channel, and we try to get to all of them. So if you can submit questions on the earlier side, we'll make sure we can, with a little time lag, we can get to them. So, and we will just have a panel discussion. So each of you described how you came to your research experience, and I think it illustrates well how we do have Master's Research Fellowships, which are a more formalized way of getting involved in a research center with faculty. But there are also a lot of other ways to do it based on your interests and what's available, what's happening in each of the research centers. And even beyond the research centers, a lot of faculty have projects that are happening, they're funded independent of research centers. So there's a lot of opportunities. So can you just maybe talk a little bit about this, like just the kind of logistics of your research work. How many hours do you work, and how do you kind of balance that with your studies? Start with Melissa.
Okay, so like I said, I work for the Prevention Research Center. I'm usually there about 10 hours a week. And the way that it works with my studies is that I kind of put the prevention, do my research at the end of the week after I've taken my classes. It's a way that I can get classes out of the way and then just focus on my research. And it's something that greatly benefits how I concentrate on what I do at the Prevention Research Center. And so currently it just depends on what my project is doing. I've just been working on a literature review. Sometimes you'll be working on like some data sets and doing analysis on those types of data sets, or working on different projects within the research center. So it just depends on what work is available. And my supervisor would go ahead and let me know what I need to be working on, or if there's a specific project she wants me to work on. So it very varies, at least for me, from day to day or week from week on what I'm going to be working on that specifically.
So in the Justice Institute, I work on a couple projects currently. So there's one where we talk about a social networking project with the people we work with within the prisons. And so I've been doing a lot of data entry for that, data organizing and helping interpret that data. And then another project we've just started was looking at how we can look at using technology into re-entry services for prisons. So I had to do a lot of research on that, shifting through a lot of articles and journals. And then I also help organize a community liaison board. So this is a board we connect with community members, people who are formerly incarcerated, and we run our ideas through them and get the feedback from them to see what they think about the work that we're doing. And so I've organized some focus groups to really run through ideas, and then transcribe those, and then bring that back into the institute to really look at how what we're doing matches up with what communities view the need is.
So my role at the Institute for Advancing Justice is maybe a little more what people tend to think of when they think of a research assistantship. And I mean, as in, I don't get the opportunity to interact with our community partners as much. I'm pretty much doing literature reviews, lit searches, abstracts. I work directly with our postdocs. We have 2 postdocs in our department, and their main goal is to push through publications. So I'm trying to sort of help them on the front end gather the information that they need to do their reviews so that they can go forward with the actual analyses and try to push those publications out.
Great, thank you. We just got a question. Thank you for submitting it. And it's a good question. Can you talk a little bit about the research centers, the work that they're dedicated to, maybe which topics they're focused on, and some bigger projects that are happening there?
So within the research centers?
Yeah,
Okay.
just on the bigger level.
Okay.
What is the PRC all about?
So in the PRC, there's various
Just the Prevention Research Center.
yes.
Sorry.
There's various projects that go on. And so my project that I'm on, it's called the Mentoring for Training for Dissemination and Implementation Research in Cancer. So that one is more of we have fellows in our program, and it's teaching about dissemination science. And so they apply to a program and they will attend a summer institute. And it's for them to advance their careers in cancer research. There's also other projects within it. There is, I know, a diabetes study that is going on that just got funded, as well as there's physical education and how like environment design contributes to like how we exercise. And one example that they use is that here at the Brown School, the elevators are hidden, and I never understood why the elevators are hidden. I couldn't find the elevators for a really long time. And the first thing that you see when you walk in is the stairs, so that people are more, it's like how the environment is constructed in order for you to use the stairs, as opposed to the elevators. So that's another project that's going on. So there's a lot of projects that go on within the research center, and it just depends on what's getting funded at that time or who's available as well. I'm not sure how it works.
Can I just add, so I believe some of those findings of the built environment were incorporated into the building that we're broadcasting from right now. It's our newest building. And so we actually use, or they use those findings to design this new state-of-the-art building. So I just wanted to show how we're applying the results we get.
So for the Institute for Advancing Justice and Justice Research and Innovation, our main topics are criminal justice reform and decarceration. So that's pretty much what all of our work goes around. There are different projects. I'm working on one and looking at technology and using in reentry services, and then and some of the ones you're working on.
Well, one of the big projects that we had this past semester was a grant they were applying for through, actually I don't remember who it was through, but they were developing a new reentry program. So for people exiting the justice system, for people reentering society, they were trying to find a way to sort of provide wraparound services to those people who are coming out to ensure that they have housing, employment, and the big question is just how do we most effectively deliver those services. So that was also a big focus of the Institute going forward, I think.
Great. Yeah, it definitely helps to talk to someone involved to really understand what our research centers are working on. We do have our research centers highlighted on our website. You can go to msw.woostel.edu or nph.woostel.edu and click through and find a link to our research centers. And there's more information on each one. But I think our main point today is that we encourage every prospective student, if they have a strong interest in pursuing some research here, to be proactive and feel free and feel comfortable to reach out directly to the faculty and staff within each research center. And start your conversation early and see if there's a good fit and where you might have a role in the work that's happening here. So I think that's really the overarching theme for today, is that it's an open door policy and our faculty are always speaking to prospective students, and we welcome that. Great. So a question that came in earlier was that, so do you know, or have you had an opportunity, or will you have an opportunity to present your research either within the Brown School or at an event or a conference? Is that something you can speak to at this point?
Yeah. So this past weekend actually was the Society for Social Work and Research conference. It was in New Orleans, Louisiana this year. And so I attended that, and I've done research in the past, and I had the opportunity to present it there, which was very exciting. But even if you don't present at those conferences, just attending them is phenomenal, because the amount of research that is being shown is so fascinating. You always meet people, talking with the presenters and how they came about in their studies and kind of what stood out to them, where they think it needs to go. That's always interesting, and it's just the connections and the networking that goes on there. It's amazing. And then, even within Brown, there's still at this level and just in the school opportunities to present research. And I think that's always great. It's a good resume builder. It helps you with the skills in presenting and in formatting your information, so to show what's important to get to your point, and then to just talk to people and really develop your passion in social work or in research or in public health, and just kind of build that up in yourself.
Great, thanks. It's probably a little early for talk about it.
Yeah, I have yet to present anything, but through my project, I do get to participate in a annual conference that is known as Summer Institute. So that's something that I will be experiencing this summer, and it's a week-long conference with all the fellows in our program. So that's a really good opportunity, a good networking event to see what other people are working on, and kind of like how people or how faculty our fellows got to the position that they got to and what career paths they've been taking.
Great. And another follow-up question is about being involved in the publishing process. And again, I know you're all three first-year students, so probably haven't gotten to that point. But can you speak to that at all?
Yeah. The publishing process is very interesting. And even like being in a first year position, or if you don't have a lot of background, when you come in and you're speaking with the doctoral students, the postdoc students, or your professors, they really, show you the process. You can see what they're working on. They'll invite you to sit down and with them and look at what they're doing. And you really see how research has transformed throughout its process. It's not always a cut and dry process, and to like look at how publications are coming out, it's very interesting. So.
Great. Yeah, I know a lot of our students do end up involved in that process.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So this is kind of a personal question, and I'll ask each of you to respond. We'll start with John.
Okay.
How does this research opportunity benefit you in your career and in your academic pursuits?
So the research institute I'm at aligns perfectly with my career goals. I am still uncertain if I might or might not get my PhD, go into academia, but regardless, this is my population of interest. So I'm getting to learn a lot more about what's going on in the field, the best practices, the current research being done, what all of the current practices are based on, so prior research. I'm getting to know a lot of leaders in the field through the director of our institute. I had a class with her as well. I'm able to meet a lot of the people that she's working with, so I'm able to sort of dip my hands into several different projects and programs and agencies in the area, and really get that firsthand experience, as well as that networking opportunity that I'm sure will benefit me after I graduate. I plan on staying here. So it's really beneficial, I think, to sort of get that experience, to get to know those people and to get to understand the best practices in the field that I'm interested in going into.
Great.
I would say it's very nice to kind of apply what I've been learning in the classroom to working world or real world experiences. And so what I'm currently doing research in is something new to me, and it's something that I've never really dove into. And so I've been learning a lot. It's different from what I was doing previously coming to grad school. So it's very eye-opening. I would say that sometimes just trying a new research opportunity that you just find interesting and that you just want to learn about, that is different from what you've been doing in the past, is a great experience, just because you get to learn new stuff, new skills, you get to meet new people in that field, and you just get to see what a kind of like a holistic view of public health and what different areas of public health there is. So it's been interesting just for me, just because I didn't know what implementation or dissemination science was, and now I am learning a little bit more and what that entails, specifically in cancer. So for those who are, I know there's a lot of master fellowships or MPHs, and sometimes they might not align with what you've been doing in the past, or something probably sticks out to you. I would just go ahead and try for it, or email a professor that you think is interested, even though you've never done anything in that, and you'll be surprised on what you can learn and how can it be applicable to your career in public health.
Great, that's great advice.
So I do have an interest in policy, so I feel that research is a very strong foundation to really build a platform in policy on. So that's kind of the approach I took with it. Another thing that really, in my work, that has stood out to me is that in research, it really shows me kind of like the inner workings of social work and public health, and kind of like the back door to how things come about. And, I think it's so exciting to be a part of this process, especially knowing that, across the board in the field of social work, this is nationally and globally, the gap between when research is published to when it's actually implemented in practice is about 12 to 15 years. So to be getting a head start in my career, to really ground myself in research and the understanding and the importance of it, I think it's really going to benefit me down the road in my career, whichever way that goes, to really help build myself up.
Excellent. Thank you. I'm going to go into some details about the Master's Research Fellowship process. We've had some questions. I want to make sure to cover those. And at the end of this, I will have a slide that has all the websites and contact information and deadlines. I'll have that for you shortly. So that someone asked, what is the application process for the Master's Research Fellowship? The applications are open now to all students that have applied, that have completed and submitted an application for admission. You will get an email that links you to all of the MRF opportunities. And you browse through them and then choose which one or 2 or 10 are of interest to you, and you just follow the application process for each individual one. You're applying directly to the faculty that you will be working with. And it's a simple application process. You need to submit your resume or CV and basically a letter of interest or a cover letter. And the deadline is February 15th. So if you don't have your application in yet and you're motivated to apply for an MRF, definitely get that application in as soon as you can so that you have full access to all these opportunities. Another question was, is prior research experience required? And because each opportunity is very specific to a research project, I'm going to say that it depends on what that faculty is looking for and also what other experience and expertise you can bring. So I would say do not be discouraged if you don't have research experience. And as Melissa was saying, you can bring relevant information or experience and knowledge to the role and then gain additional to apply into your career, whichever direction that goes. So, and this is one that I might also open up to the panel. What types of training do fellows get for their MRF roles? And I don't know. I don't know if there's a one-size-fits-all answer to that either. But it sounds like you'll be engaged in the Summer Institute as part of your research position.
When I hear training, there's 2 ways you can take it, like types of training that you will need to do your role as a master fellow or a research assistant. That could be like learning how to use the statistical software that center is using. So that could be SPSS, SAS, R, or Stata. So that you'll be getting that kind of training if you're going to be running data analyses or working with a data set. So in that sense, if you have not experience with the statistical software, the faculty or your supervisor will go ahead and teach you, and you also learn that through your classes. So I'm currently learning some of the softwares that I will be using as well in my research center. So you'll be learning it concurrently. And then in training, you could, at least for me, I will be in the conference, and so that's kind of training in that aspect, but I not kind of sure what kind of training they need. So it can be various ways of training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you feel like you needed to be trained to, or that there was any training built into your positions?
We both had very different experiences within the same institute, but the staff were very helpful in acquainting us with what tools we needed to know prior to getting into the work that we were doing. So it really depends what kind of work you'll be doing in the institute. And I think the staff are very good at making sure you have the proper accommodations to do the job.
I think for me, my training of sorts was sort of just weekly meetings and constant feedback, sort of, this is good, this could be done differently, and getting that constant feedback to the point where, after a month or so, those meetings weren't quite as necessary, but it's sort of ongoing feedback more so than a formalized training.
Great, and I think that will be the case with each individual position, whether it's a master's research fellowship or a more a research assistant kind of position. And another question that came in was that our student panel, actually none of them came to their positions through the master's research fellowship process, and is that typical? And I would say yes, it's typical to get it, not typical to get a master's research fellowship, but that's one way that people come into a research position. And then a lot of people also do it a lot of different other ways. So there's no typical here. You can, different ways work for different students and different research projects. And someone asked a great question. Can you speak to some of your biggest accomplishments so far in your research? What are you most proud of in the few months you've been working there?
I would just say, like I said, I've been working on the literature review, and so that's pretty much been what I've been working on since I started. So that would probably be my biggest accomplishment. And something that I get to interact with other fellows within the program. And so I'm actually doing this literature review, helping it out with a fellow who's in the program. And so it's been really nice to interact with her and just see where this takes us. And it can be very very broad and taxing at first because it was a very broad topic. But then now I'm on the second step, so now it's kind of starting to make more sense, and I know which direction they are kind of planning to go. So I would say just like figuring out how to do a big literature search and how to go about like all the resources that are available, reading through all the papers, and just learning new things through reading these papers. And I would say that was the biggest thing.
So for me, I've really enjoyed working with the community liaison board. That's been a great experience to kind of share with people that the research we are doing is intending to affect, kind of see, what are we hitting on? What are we missing? So I think to like actually be there and get that feedback has been very interesting. And indirectly, kind of one of my favorite, greatest, accomplishments would be that my professor, my supervisor, a couple weeks ago actually met with a representative from Google to talk about the possibility of what opportunities they have to help us in our research. And a lot of the work that I've done, in the literature review and kind of just the focus groups and all that information, was, used to present kind of the foundation of our work to the representatives at Google. And my supervisors said that it went well with them. They're interested in hearing what we had to do. So yeah, I wasn't there for the actual meeting, but knowing that my work laid the pavement for the future. Yes.
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest accomplishment, the grant that I mentioned earlier that we were working on, we got it, and that was, I think, really beneficial. So I think being able to be a part, even as just a research assistant, the smaller role that I did play, I think among the 4, 5, 6 of us put together, was instrumental in getting that grant passed. So I think that was a really rewarding experience.
Great, awesome, thank you. It's such a nice kind of cross-section of different responses. I appreciate that. Another question came in, and thanks for keeping the questions coming. We love this. Do any of the students have previous experience in research during their undergraduate career? And I know, Jose, you mentioned that you did. So we can start with you.
So I did. I went to George Mason University, and so I had experience there. It wasn't really particularly with my interests. It was with gerontology, but it was fascinating nonetheless. So even though I did research my undergrad, even though it wasn't with where I want to work in the field, but just actually doing some research experience in my undergrad was just, it had really helped. I can see how it helped me in where I am now.
I had research experience. I was a chemistry major, so I had direct wet lab research experience. as well as I did research in public health. So I worked with California farm workers in occupational health and safety. And so it was a epi study that we did in California where we went out into the fields and collected data on farmers regarding heat illness. So I did that for I was there in my undergrad and then came back and worked as a junior specialist for that study and was there from the data collection all the way to the analysis and dissemination of like some type of train-the-trainer training for the farm workers. So that is pretty much what kind of drove my public health career, I'd say.
For me in undergrad, I wrote a thesis for my bachelor's, so that was my research experience. It was sort of proposing a blend of using a cultural anthropological outlook to guide generalist practice social work settings. And that was a really rewarding experience, I think, to be able to look at the utility of combining those different fields.
Thanks. Another question came in. So all of your work sounds engaging. What are the required amounts of time, like hours per week, I think? And then secondly, how do you balance your fellowship work with your field placement and coursework? So we kind of touched on that a little bit, but anybody wants to?
Well, I don't know if any of us, at least Jose and I, last semester were not in field yet. So that's a good question.
Yeah.
But I feel good about it because, last semester I was able to get a lot done on the weekends. I was able to get a lot done at night. Sometimes it was difficult to get in my work hours between 8 and 5. But weeks where it was really difficult, the faculty were able to work with me and I was able to work outside of work hours or reduce my workload for that week. And this semester I have classes on only 2 days a week, so you sort of, I think, craft your schedule strategically to accommodate that.
So we only have to work a minimum of 10 hours, but we do have the option to work more. I believe we do kind of end up averaging around 12, 13 hours a week. And it's mainly just crafting your schedule and they're very helpful in accommodating that. The office, we do have access to the office after 5 p.m. So if we want to work, say 6 to 8 or something, that's able to happen. Meetings are usually in the afternoons. And so our class schedules, we're able to work around that. And then same with the practicum this week so far. I only have my practicum on Tuesdays. So all day Tuesday is dedicated to that. So I don't have to worry about how to fix anything around that the rest of the week.
So on the MPH side as well, 10 hours, some students end up working more depending on the project expectations or what's going on at that time. Very flexible if you need to take off, if you need to study for finals or midterms or some practicum workshop comes up that you need to attend, very, very flexible. For MPH students, you end up doing your practicum during the summer, so you won't, the first year you won't have that interwoven into your schedule. So the only, that would probably happen next year if you don't finish your practicum during the summer, you might have to mix it in. But I heard of students who stay in St. Louis and end up doing their practicum and can still squeeze in a couple hours at their research center. So I'm not sure how that looks yet, but it's possible.
It's possible, it happens all the time, but you are never bored or wanting for things to do at the Brown School, for sure. Great, thank you. We have another question. How about funding? Yes, and I hadn't gotten to that point in the MRF discussion. So we call it a fellowship. It is compensated on an hourly pay rate, which is higher than a work study position. So it's $12 an hour, and with so roughly about $5,000 per year maximum. And it's about 10 hours a week. That's what we say. It sounds like and all of the research positions kind of can be flexible, but land somewhere around 10 or maybe a little more per week. And yeah, so the fellowships only, they're a hourly pay rate, not a tuition remission or living expenses. And another benefit is that the health and wellness fee is waived for all of our MRFs. So, and that's $330. So, and a really nice question that, unless more questions come in, I think this will be our last one. You're welcome to squeeze in another question, but generally, what makes a competitive application for an MRF position? And like many of the questions, I think the answer is it depends on the faculty, the research they're doing, but just I think faculty like to see that you have there's something, I think Melissa said, there's something about that position is relevant to you or got your attention, and I would say addressing how you can further the work that is happening, how you can contribute to that, whether it's with some skills you have or that area of research or something else. So I don't just, would you have any other general advice as far as, I know you all three got your positions in very different ways. So
I would say one thing is like how you would contribute, like Laura said, just like what you've done in the past is gonna contribute to what you're doing now, especially if it's something different, like how it's relevant to you or what part of it is very interesting. To mention in that cover letter that you have to put in. So, yeah.
great.
I mean, it helps to highlight your interests, your passions, and kind of how you can see the mutual relationship helping one another between you and the position, the institute you're working for.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's always a good idea to highlight your versatility if that's a skill set that you have. I think something that a lot of people struggle with is connecting one job experience to another. And I think you just have to think outside of the box sometimes to draw those lines.
Great. And another question came in. Can you include elements from your admissions personal statement in your application materials for the MRF? And I would say, sure. they're going to different people. They're not going to be reviewed by the same committees. So if that's, absolutely. Great. I'm gonna keep talking, and if another question comes in, we'll get to one more. I just want to thank our panel so much. You guys have been so helpful today, and I appreciate you taking time out of your first week back in your second semester. So John, Jose, and Melissa, it's been actually really a pleasure to get to know your experiences and to hear more about how it's going. And so let's see. Yeah, so I hope this has been helpful as you are considering all the ways you might be involved in research and how the Brown School can be a part of that. I will put up my contact information and some other important information in a second here, and I encourage you to reach out to me directly if you have any questions regarding any of this information. I'm an admissions specialist, so any admissions questions, and I'm happy to connect you with whatever people or information you need. And thank you so much. So I'm gonna put up our contact info. Have a wonderful day.